Hello everyone, welcome to this video. I hope that everybody's doing great today. So I wanted to continue the topic that I started in my last video and talk a little bit about whether starting your own business and what are the best practices and the best strategies to do that in a way that it doesn't drain you, it doesn't sap all your energy, and it doesn't take all your time. This would also be very helpful for people who already have their own business and best practices around that. So like everything in life, everything starts with mindset. So I want to say a few words about that first. Everything in your business, like let's say that you already have a business and you feel like you are drained or that your employees are not doing their job and that's why you're stressed out, or your clients are driving you crazy, or you have an issue with your rent or your landlord, with whatever it is. The thing to know is that everything comes from you because you are a business owner who created this business. Every single problem that you have in the business, it literally comes from you. Now, I'm not saying that to point fingers or to say that, okay, this is all your fault and you're just a terrible business person. I'm saying that because for me personally, when my business was not working the way that I wanted, it was empowering for me to know that since I was the one who made it this way, that it doesn't work, that is just not good at the moment, that it was in my power to change it and to actually make it work so that it is satisfying to me, so that it does give me what I need from it, okay? So to me, this is a very powerful thing to know that whatever happens, pointing fingers at someone else, circumstances or other people, is not going to be the solution, because literally the business that you create, it is your creation. You literally birthed it out of you, and it is a reflection of you. So which is great news because you're the one who can change it. You have all the power in the world to change it. So I'm going to give you an example of a woman. She was actually an attorney of mine. It was years ago. But this woman, she had her own business, and when I was talking to her, she was telling me that, oh yes, that she hasn't slept the night before because she was working through the night, and today she already had like 6 cups of coffee, and she was saying that, oh yes, that she works 12-hour days and she can work as much and as hard as all the boys can do. All the boys can work. She was relating to some of her buddies who were attorneys as well. And when I was listening to this woman, it occurred to me that she is trying to prove to herself and to other people that she can work just as hard or just as long as others. And for her, that is the ultimate testament of how good she is at her job, right? So she was an attorney. And I mean, these things don't really come together, right? These don't come hand in hand, but this was how she was perceiving it. So in her mind, unless she was able to work long hours like these male colleagues of hers could work, or maybe even female colleagues, she was not a good attorney. And granted that sometimes young attorneys, when they graduate law school and they go and work for large firms, they have to kind of pay their dues, and the firm makes them work really, really long hours. But this was not the case here. This woman actually had her own firm, so she was setting her own hours. But this was a moment of pride for her that she actually got an autoimmune disease because she was working like this for a couple of years, and then she basically had to not practice as much and really, really cut back because she had health repercussions from that. And I'm not saying that it happens in every single instance, but this was an example of that woman. So in a way, she was fighting for her own limitations, and at the same time, she was complaining. I remember she was saying that, yes, she was working these 12-hour days, but she was complaining about her assistants, that her assistants didn't know what they were doing, her employees were terrible. So it was always like she had to do all the work because she could not trust her assistant who would screw everything up. That was literally her words, right? And again, knowing that everything comes from you as a business owner, that is her responsibility to make sure that her assistants are adequate, right? To make sure that she is supported by her employees. there's crisis mode in business. Let's say pandemic happens, right? And nobody could predict that. So as I shared in my last video, it was literally 12-hour days. And then after I was done with that, after doing billing, after doing supply ordering, after seeing all the clients, after seeing all the patients, after doing all the sterilization of the equipment, and then at the end of all that, I also had to be a janitor and literally wash the floor because I could not get a cleaning crew, right? So this is a situation of crisis mode. There was no other choice. After those days, the level of stress and exhaustion, I remember literally after those days, I would be on the parking lot in my car crying because of this immense stress and immense just exhaustion that I had, right? So the thing is that a lot of business owners are in the same position, even though there's no crisis mode, there's no pandemic going on, but they are working 12-hour days, they are not sleeping, they're losing hair, they are having all sorts of health issues, their family life is terrible. So they are not technically, there's nothing externally saying that it's a crisis mode, but they make it a crisis mode, right? So why does that happen? So the same situation that I gave you with this attorney lady, right? It was not a crisis mode. This was like 6 years ago, and she had successful practice. That was not an issue. The issue was in her brain, that there were certain beliefs that she had that made her think that she needed to do it that way, right? So same thing is, people sometimes believe that they need to do things a certain way, and that's why they put themselves in the position of this extreme stress. And there are a lot of fears that people have around changing things. I still did business in the masculine way just because the previous owner was a man, he did things a certain way. So I was almost like I stepped into his shoes, and I did it the way that he did it. And I was working, all these hours a week, crazy hours a week, because that was the expectation, right? That was the expectation of my team, because that's how he used to do it. That was the expectation of the clients, that they're gonna see me. And that was the expectation of myself, that I had for myself rather, that I was the one who had to actually see all these patients and clients. And this is the expectation in my industry. So when I started to change the paradigm, because that level of work, like 12-hour days that I used to do, like that almost killed me. And that would probably kill anyone, right? So there are certain beliefs that we have about ourselves, and then people around us have, and the society has, that almost puts us in this cap. There's a cap of, okay, this is what you can do, and you can't go above that. You have to be the one doing certain things in your business. So when I said, okay, I'm actually not going to be seeing all these clients. I'm going to hire someone to see the clients instead of me, so I can focus on things that only I can do. And there was a lot of pushback around that, right? The clients were used to seeing myself. The team was not quite understanding of that at first. And there were certain fears that I had myself, thinking that, okay, well, my clients and everybody else is expecting me to actually work 40 hours or 50 hours a week. And every other person in my industry, they do that, right? So whenever I would talk to someone and say that, oh, actually, I'm not doing that. I'm not seeing these clients. I have someone else who sees the clients. And I would get a little bit of a funny look from people, because they'd be like, well, why not? Like they're doing it, I'm doing it, so why wouldn't you do it? And this is when you kind of have to put your foot down and say, well, you know what? You can do what you want to do. You can work however much you want to work. And it doesn't mean that I have to do it, because the beauty of it is that it is my business. And it is your business. So you don't really have to prove to other people why you're doing the things the way that you do. And of course, everyone here have different types of business, but it doesn't really matter what the expectations are as long as you can set it up so that everybody understands and clients can be retrained. That's what I did with my clients. At first, they were not happy about the fact that they were not seeing me, but the way that it's presented, the way that I presented it, I mean, everything is presentation, right? How you present it, that's how people are going to perceive it. So long story short, but I stepped back, I hired people to work instead of me, and cutting back on the overhead, cutting back on expenses allows me to do business in this way. And I'm going to be talking about this a little bit more, but I just wanted to say that there are these fears that a lot of times we have, those fears that don't allow us to actually go and do what we want to do. I have a lady that I know that she had the same practice, similar practice to mine. So it's a medical dental practice. And she was doing this, she was working in the old paradigm. So she was the one seeing all the clients, seeing all the patients, and then running the whole practice. Well, guess what? She sold her practice because she was just exhausted. She was done. Sometimes there is these sad examples and instances where people just come to that point where they are too exhausted, too tired, too drained, and they just sell their business or they just close their business. And that could be a shame because of all the effort invested in it, all the money invested in it, time invested. So there are ways to turn it around. I was able to change and transition my business from this masculine paradigm into a feminine paradigm, and that made all the difference. I'm going to be talking about these strategies more on my channel here. If this content resonates with you, please leave me a comment. I love reading your comments. You can follow me on Instagram at Sienna.Skills. I am going to be making more of a shorter videos there on Instagram, and I hope you enjoyed the video. I will talk to you guys in the next one.